Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something just absolutely monumental in the aerospace world. We're unpacking all the events, the data, and the truly dramatic moments from SpaceX's massive new Starship test flight. Now, this was the second flight for Starship V3, the absolute latest version of this incredible machine. And man, it was a mission packed with both soaring triumphs and some pretty harsh trials. So let's jump right into the engineering marvels and the operational realities of this historic flight.
13. Yeah, during the live stream of the event, SpaceX employees enthusiastically dubbed this lucky number 13. Kind of sets an exciting but maybe slightly ominous tone, doesn't it? Because when you're testing Starship, which was designed by Elon Musk's aerospace contractor to literally be the largest rocket ever built or flown, luck is certainly welcome. But engineering is what actually matters. This massive vehicle is designed to be fully reusable and to lift a lot more cargo into orbit for way less money. But as we all know, getting it there is half the battle.
All right, let's get into Section 1, launching lucky number 13. So, setting the stage for this Friday evening launch down at Starbase in Texas, the anticipation was just off the charts, especially following the company's record IPO last month. But getting this giant off the pad, yeah, far from easy. On X, the company explained that an earlier attempt planned for Thursday had to be delayed simply due to weather. But before that, they actually faced a much more intense technical hurdle. They had already scrubbed a test flight back on July 16th. During the live stream for that earlier attempt, a SpaceX employee explained that the rocket's booster triggered a hold and it literally shut down the engines right as they were trying to ignite. I mean, that kind of last-second shutdown really builds the narrative tension leading right up to Friday's successful liftoff. Moving right along to Section 2, a tale of two splashdowns. About 2 minutes into the flight, the massive, super heavy booster detaches from the Starship spacecraft. And these two stages ended up having very different fates on their way back down to Earth. The booster, which was heading for the Gulf, tried to relight its Raptor engines for the landing burn, but only a subset of them actually ignited. This relight failure led to what SpaceX called a hard splashdown. Ouch. But juxtapose that trial against the upper stage. Heading into the Indian Ocean, the upper stage somehow managed to come to rest intact, giving them a triumphant, soft splashdown. And honestly, even more amazingly, SpaceX noted that this gave them critical views of an intact heat shield for the very first time. It is practically the perfect example of the whole fail-forward philosophy behind these tests. Now let's hit Section 3, deploying Starlink V3 satellites. Okay, so while testing the rocket itself is obviously crucial, we can't forget what this giant vehicle is actually built to carry. Starship is considered absolutely vital for the company's goal to vastly expand its Starlink network. And the life cycle for this specific payload was incredibly fast. Basically, at T+18 minutes into Friday's flight, SpaceX successfully deployed 20 of its brand new Starlink V3 satellites into orbit. This was their first real chance to see how these new units would perform in actual flight conditions. But notice the end of this timeline, T+38 minutes. These satellites were on a highly specific, very short mission. They were entirely intended to just burn up after about 20 minutes in orbit. Yep, it was a rapid, data-gathering suicide mission strictly for testing purposes. So you might be wondering, why on Earth did these specific satellites require the largest rocket ever built just to lift them? Well, these new Starlink V3 satellites, which are produced at a SpaceX facility up in Redmond, Washington, are fundamentally different from the older models. They are built larger and significantly more powerful. As a SpaceX business analyst pointed out during the live stream, they are equipped with advanced solar arrays that actually generate twice as much power as the previous generations. So heavier, larger, more powerful cargo that absolutely demands a much larger, much more powerful rocket. Which brings us to Section 4, the reusability reality check. We've talked about this spectacular launch, the intact heat shield, the successful deployment, but to truly grasp the state of the program, we have to ground these soaring technical milestones in some operational and financial realities. Tim Farrar, a satellite services industry expert over at TMF Associates, pointed out that while yes, progress was definitely made, SpaceX remains a long way from achieving rapid reusability of the entire ship. He specifically pointed back to those issues they had relighting the Raptor engines on Friday. He warns that any similar failure during an attempted landing at the company's launch site could cause severe damage to the launch pad. I mean, think about it. A hard splashdown out in the Gulf is one thing, but a hard crash right on the launch pad, that would be a catastrophic operational setback. And then there's this number, 43%. That is how much SpaceX's stock has slumped since its peak close back on June 16th. So the pressure to get this right, it isn't just technical, it's heavily financial. Actually, the stock has dropped in 4 of the past 5 weeks following their record IPO last month. When you are developing the biggest rocket in human history, the financial burn rate is just immense, and the market is watching every single one of these tests with intense scrutiny. Every successful intact heat shield is being weighed directly against every failed engine relight.
Finally, let's look at Section 5, Future Missions, Moon to Mars.
So despite the stock slumps and those very real launchpad risks, SpaceX is pushing forward with this crazy expensive iterative testing process. Why? Because the ambitions driving this program are genuinely historical. This fully reusable rocket is intended to carry some massive payloads in the future. As we know, it's going to vastly expand the Starlink network with those bulky V3 satellites. But they're also developing Starmine satellites, which they want to launch and use as massive orbital data centers. And beyond commercial satellites, the goals get even grander. We're talking using Starship to bring US astronauts back to the moon's surface. To that end, the company is already preparing Starship for a major NASA test flight next year. And eventually, the ultimate goal is to power manned missions to Mars. This single vehicle is literally the linchpin for all of these massive payload ambitions.
And I think that leaves us with a pretty profound question to chew on. We can clearly see Starship is making incredible progress, right? Deploying new satellites, surviving atmospheric reentry with an intact heat shield, those are huge wins. But with the intense financial pressure from a slumping stock and major technical hurdles still remaining, like those engine relight failures, when will the dream of rapid, safe reusability of the entire ship finally become a reality? It's a question the whole world, and especially the aerospace market, will be watching incredibly closely as SpaceX gears up for their next launch. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, keep your eyes on the skies.